Begin.
Hello, and welcome to Wine, Whiskey, and Words. I'm the pretty one, and this is.
The intelligent one.
I'm Daniel, and this is Brad. If you're new, each episode we try something to drink. Often it's wine or whiskey. Sometimes we branch out, like our last episode. Uh, then we talk about something interesting that's happened since the last episode. It could be something we've seen, something that happened in our lives. We try to be just adventurous with that. And then finally, we talk about a topic we chose from the previous episode. This time, we had a little interjection after the previous episode because I forgot to pick a topic last time. Hopefully, that doesn't happen this time. Brad promises me he is not as incompetent as I am.
I already came up with the topic,
Yeah,
and it's a solid one because it was vetted by my brother.
it is a doozy. So, we do our best to prep and research for the topics. Sometimes we just kind of wing it, but we do our best. We're just here mostly just to have fun, share our lives and our thoughts with listeners. With that said, let's begin. Brad, what did you bring to drink this time?
So this is so
Wait. I have something. No, I'm just kidding.
shut up.
Just kidding.
So in keeping in line with the topic, basically talking about malls and how they're not once what they used to be and such. I brought a bottle of Merlot, which really had its heyday back in the 80s and 90s, and then a certain little movie came out uh, called Sideways, where he was sick of Merlot.
Is that like Paul Giamatti, right?
Paul Giamatti,
Yeah.
um, and so it kind of went to the wayside. This particular Merlot is the name of the wine is Yarrow. It's from Medlock Ames out of California. This is another one that I got from Wine Spies.
Okay.
And whoops,
Where is Medlock Ames located in California?
I was there. We go. So it's in Heldsburg, but the appellation for this is from the Alexander Valley.
Okay.
I'll give you a little bit information on this. So the area where the Merlot is sourced is hilly upper slopes with heavy clay soils. And it's a blend of the Jefferson clone, which brings spice and structure, and clone 181, which shows more opulence and elegance. As far as the notes on this, you're going to get a bit of herbal spice, rosemary, and dried fennel aromas. On the palate, it's more balanced with juicy acidity and upfront tannins that softly linger throughout the mouth. You're going to get a bit of acai berry, black plum, ripe blueberry, and chocolate covered raspberries. And you're going to get a little bit of a silky cocoa and coffee finish. So, this is one that they really recommended. I wanted to say you're drinking it from now up until the early, like, 2030s.
Okay.
As I mentioned, I got it from Wine Spies. I've mentioned them a few times. It's something where you're getting a nice little value on these wines.
I feel like this one does not have. A lot of the wines we've been going with lately have like almost like an earthy minerality to
I'm
it
getting cocoa right off the bat
on the nose.
on the nose.
Okay, I can see that.
Cocoa, a bit of like it's a lot of cocoa.
It has a little bit of a tartness to the nose to me.
A little bit. I'm getting a little bit of the like a blackberry.
Yeah. So I mean, I like it. I mean, I like the look of it. It's a pretty dark dark glass.
I don't go for looks. I go for taste.
I don't know. There's something about like looking at something and appreciating its color. Like I really like a Barolo in the Italian wines, and they almost have like a brownish tint to them.
Yeah.
They taste good, but they just have an interesting tint. So I like looking at them and seeing what they look like.
Daniel picks his wine like he picks his women.
The best looking ones. Thoughts? I definitely get some tannins on this.
The tannins,
Or they're
yeah.
intense,
But now keep in mind,
not in a bad way. Like,
so no, so I used the aerator on this one. In realistically, I knew that when I popped this open, this is something that you should probably decant for at least 30 to 40 minutes prior to opening.
see, I thought Merlots you didn't really need to decant.
Any wine that's if you've got a bit of tannins, it depends. So if some wines are meant to be enjoyed immediately, and some wines you're gonna wanna lay them down. As I tell people all the time, if you've ever had that wine where you poured it, took a sip, then got into some conversation, forgot about the wine, 20 minutes later you're sipping it and you're getting more flavors, it's basically letting it air out, decanting it.
So I will say, had you not read the tasting notes, because I'm just not good at like pulling words out of the air, I wouldn't have known what the taste is that I couldn't have identified it, but I definitely taste the rosemary that they described. It's subtle, but it's definitely there. Um, and I think this is one of the things I like. I know that I guess a purist might say that you shouldn't worry about the notes. You should really feel it yourself and experience it yourself. But I feel like that takes a lot of practice and experience to be able to pick out those little flavors. And so sometimes when you hear the notes or you read the notes, you get that like like the cheat sheet, and
Yeah.
then you're like picking out those flavors. I guess in the hope that one day you'll be able to pick them out without having to hear the cheat sheet. So
I enjoy this.
yeah, it's nice. It's very light.
Yeah. I've got one more wine in my locker from Wine Spies
Okay.
before I can ship it, so I'm just
Oh,
patiently waiting for the tariffs to go away so my stocks go up so I can
well,
get something
apparently
else.
they went
So,
away today.
well,
Some of them, at
not
least,
so not
unless you're
entirely
ordering that Chinese wine.
not entirely went away.
Yeah,
It's just that the
the latest.
increased amount. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we're not going to talk about politics, Brad.
No. So, one thing after we do our little what happened, I've got a new thing to introduce as well,
Okay.
and I'll
Can
tell you that in
can
a bit.
can you like do you? I don't know if in your research you came up with like, do you know anything about this producer of wines? Like, is there any like family history? I like
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
no, actually, so I can actually tell you. Ba, ba, ba. Let me go back in here. So they had a little bit in the about us. So they were founded by a deep passion for discovering where wine and mindful farming connect.
Okay.
Um, they're all about sustainability. Uh, they said we are proud of over 20 years of minimal impact to our environment. So the co-founder is Ames Morrison, and the winemaker, her name is Abby Watt. So she
What?
is Watt.
What?
Watt,
Who?
not what.
Who?
Watt.
Sorry.
WATT. Um, Stick to the technical stuff. Um, so she brings a decade of experience and extremely high standards to the winery. There's not a lot of information on there, but it's the Bell Mountains Vineyard
Okay.
over there. Um, so that's, I mean, really. So in essence, it seems like they really want to. They're taking from the vineyard and they're also giving back to the environment.
Okay. As this opens up, I get a little hint of sweetness on the front end, almost like a plum,
Yeah,
which is really nice. Uh, yeah, this is a good choice, Brad. Thank you.
I
Thank you for
know.
bringing this. All right. So something interesting that's happened. What is anything interesting happened in your world, Brad, lately?
Oh goodness me! We got to celebrate with my family over in Gainesville. No, not the national championship. Go Gators! Uh, but this was prior to that, so we got to celebrate my brother getting Hall of Fame over at the College of Journalism and Communication. So
Yay!
we were, and it really thanks um, to Rick Hirsch, who is the husband of my aunt Robin, and so he's also a Hall of Famer with them, and he's got a really storied history with the Miami Herald for many years, which he retired from there within the last year or two, and has recently begun working for the University of Florida in the College of Journalism, and it was really him putting Rich up for nomination that started the process. So really super thankful. So he was there along with my aunt Robin, my mother, her boyfriend Cliff, um, my cousin Adam, and his wife Tracy were there, and of course my sister-in-law Jennifer. So it was great. We all went out to eat the night before and just got to spend a lot of time together. So it was really just a really great time.
Okay. It's always good to see family. Um,
Absolutely.
I actually had a recent event that kind of surprised me. Jamie and I went on this cruise, and our main goal in going on this cruise was to kind of spend some time together and just get a quick getaway. It was just a weekend, and we were trying to hit our casino level because we didn't do it this year, and the last day of this cruise was the last day of your year to do this. So we get on the ship, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just overlooking the port and just relaxing, and messaged my dad a picture, and he says, "Oh, what ship are you on?" And I said, Utopia of the Seas. He says, "Oh, your sister's on that ship." I went, "Now?" "Yeah, they're on there for their anniversary." And sure enough, she was there. So we went and hung out with them a little bit, but we ended up didn't want to crash the anniversary trip, so we hung out with them a bit. When we went to Nassau, I took them to one of my favorite places, the Shenanigans Irish Pub, which is right there by the port. Um, had some breakfast shots and Guinness and just a good time all around. So
Daniel,
what?
how the heck did you not know that your sister was on a cruise?
Well, we don't give everybody our plans, so I guess they don't really tell us their plans. Like, I mean,
Wow.
I wasn't invited on the cruise, so why would I wouldn't necessarily
You
know.
need to talk to your sister more often, Daniel.
Yeah, I know. I'm just not good at these things.
Understood.
So
So,
I try.
all right. So now on to the new feature.
Is this Brad sings so we know how his voice lessons are going?
No. This is called What Happened on Reddit.
What happened on Reddit? Okay,
So,
I don't do Reddit any more than I do Facebook. So
Reddit is really interesting because you've got a lot of the, am I the asshole forums and
yes,
such.
the answer is yes. If you're asking, am
So,
I the asshole?
all
You
right, shut
probably
up.
are.
So I'm going to read this one and you tell me what you think. So the title of this one was, I found out my husband's present for my birthday and hate it. Am I the asshole? So I'm going to read what she wrote. I know I'll sound ungrateful, but I need an advice. I'll turn 45 in a few weeks, and I casually found out what my husband is going to give me as a present. Flashback. When we started dating, he had a two-seat BMW he loved. He had one major accident with it, spent a month in the hospital, had it repaired, then it was stolen 3 times. Okay. It caused a lot of fights and pain between us, and also a huge loss of money. I hated it. When our first daughter was born, he agreed there was no use in a two-seat car and sold it. The guy who took it only paid half of it. The other half was never paid for. Hence lawsuit, lawyers, another loss of money, more hate. But that was almost 20 years ago. Now I found out that he's found the very same BMW and bought it as a present for me. He knows how I feel about this car. It brought a lot of negativeness in our lives. We don't need it, and I don't want to drive it. It's basically for himself. How am I supposed to react? Uh, how am I supposed to react when he gives it to me? Falsely cheerful? I know this car, having it again, makes him happy, but it definitely makes me unhappy. I don't want to disappoint him, but he did disappoint me. I can't help but feeling her writing wasn't the best. So basically, is she the asshole? I'm gonna say no. That's that's total, disrespect on the point of him.
I agree. He is being pretty dense and stupid. However, I tell my wife almost every time a gift holiday. This is why we actually don't really do gifts. We just go on a cruise most of the time anymore. Anytime one of these things comes up, I say, "Hey, tell me what you want, or I'm just going to pick something." And she knows that I'm not good at picking things because the first time I ever got her a gift, I don't know, it was like for a maybe we'd been dating for a year or something. And or no, it might have been her birthday. And I really loved her. I loved her to death. Like just was crazy about her. And not knowing any better, I went to a store because she hadn't told me what she wanted, and I found these really pretty like champagne glasses. I didn't realize that like at weddings, champagne flutes are kind of like the big thing. And these were clearly like his and hers, like they had like art on the stems and everything. And I got her these fancy champagne flutes, and she's like, "You got me wedding flutes for?" I was like, "Those are wedding flutes? I just thought they were pretty glasses." So I do think there's probably more to the story than what we're being told.
Yeah, but obviously this was in no way a present for her.
Yeah, I mean, if she had said I hated that car and he was well aware of it, yeah, he's kind of being a dick.
If he had gotten her like a toaster, you know,
Or a
that
vacuum cleaner, man. If
vacuum
you want
cleaner.
to go all in, get her a vacuum cleaner. Chicks love that. I'm just kidding. I don't call women chicks most of the time. I just seem to fit with my comment. And don't get your significant other a vacuum cleaner, no matter whether they're male or female. Just don't. Don't.
This is what happens when Daniel pre-games prior.
Pre-game! Sorry, for those of you just listening, I'm shaking my glass of ranch water, which Brad does not like,
That was
which
disgusting.
is also his ranch water because he didn't drink any of it.
Yeah,
So
that was disgusting.
I'm a fan.
It was like drinking watered down tequila. And I don't like tequila in the first place. I've had some good tequila. That I'm going to drink straight. But if I'm going to drink something like that, give me a gin and tonic or vodka
That's
tonic.
fair. That's fair. I mean, I didn't realize you didn't like tequila, so
Yeah.
news to me.
I don't like the flavor of it.
Now I
Unless
know.
it's really good.
Now I know. I mean, this is good tequila. It's
Yeah,
just
well,
you didn't like the cocktail. I get it.
yeah.
Get it.
It was okay tequila.
All right. Anything else? Oh, you know what? I want to tell everyone. I want to tell the world. I'm telling the world. So I've joined a pool league. I think I said that on the last episode, and I won my first match on Monday. I'm so proud of it. Uh,
He's an excellent swimmer.
I was it was terrible. The first actually it was terrible most of the way through it, but I managed to squeak by 1 ball. So it was a good job. Brad had pointed out that you only need 1 ball. So
You only need one ball to succeed in life.
yep. And, I mean, some people might differ on that. That's kind of offensive, Brad. Although we are not allowed to do DEI anymore, so I guess it's okay. All right.
Okay, let's move
All
on.
right. Topic. So last time, as some of you may remember, I forgot to pick a topic. And my first run through was, hey, what have we learned on podcasting? And the reality is we just haven't learned that much. So there was a short episode posted on the internet somewhere. Brad did it.
Yeah.
I didn't do it.
I did it.
I sent him the video where I said that the new topic is malls. Should they still exist? And as I often do, I like to learn a little history behind malls or behind things before we talk about them. So, do you mind if I go through some
I fully
history?
expected you to do so.
All right. So, I, as you might guess, malls had a predecessor. They say they originated like with the bazaars from the Middle East and things like that. But the closest thing we have to like what we see today as malls are just covered streets. And there's some really famous ones. The in 1798 in Paris, the God, I'm sorry if you guys are French or know French. I'm gonna massacre this, but I'm gonna say the Passage du Car um, in Paris was the first covered shopping passage. It's really beautiful. It's worth looking up. It's Passage Ducaire, worth looking up. And then in the 1800s, there were some things called arcades opened in London, and one in Providence, Rhode Island, built in 1828, claims to be the first shopping arcade in the United States. These things, people debate them. So it wasn't until the 1950s that we actually got like what I think of when you think of a mall, like the big enclosed thing. There was an architect who like this was kind of his deal, his contribution to architecture, named Victor Gruen, Gruen, and he opened one in Minnesota. In 1956, it became a big thing and enormously popular. What's interesting is it Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know if you know who Malcolm Gladwell is. He's written a lot of like books on economics and history and things like that. He actually says he was the most influential architect of the 20th century
Hmm.
because malls became such a big deal, but he actually hated what he had created. He hated that we started just throwing up these massive shopping centers away from everything that ended up just being surrounded by parking lots and garages, and it was just an ugly, horrible thing. But anyway, it went on. You get these big, massive malls, but they're all away from downtown. You started having this suburban exodus, and they would build these malls instead of building, um, normal shopping in towns and things like that. Obviously, around 2000, malls are really declining. Um, and a lot of them are empty, a lot of them are dying. And in 2007, right before the economic collapse, um, for the first time in 50 years, no new malls were built. There were zero malls built in 2007. So now in modern times, they're well, actually in the U.S. Sorry, that was should have had that added that caveat. Now, in a lot of countries, they're working on these vertical malls, which are like a mall in a building because they have to build up. There's not enough
Hmm.
land. They're really popular in Asia and things. A few bits of trivia. Oddly enough, the gross leasable area, the biggest mall in the world, is in Tehran, Iran. Would not have guessed that. And
I would have guessed more like Dubai or something.
well, there are quite a few large malls in Dubai, but none of them are in the top 10. And
Hmm.
before you get to the United States, you get to number 12. Number 12, the Mall of America, is still.
Yeah.
Now, that's not counting the theme park inside of
Oh,
Mall of
okay.
America. So maybe, I don't know. It's these things get debated a lot. So that's really all I have for facts and tidbits. I like to kind of know a little bit about these things, and I thought it was pretty interesting.
In doing a little bit of research of the subject, well, I guess my kind of thoughts is, should malls be around anymore? And then once I realized it wasn't as much should malls be around, but should the malls that we had when we were younger, should they still be around? And obviously the answer is no. But malls have evolved. You've got malls now that have casinos with them. You've got malls that have apartment style living above them as well.
Hmm.
There's and there's it's evolved into not so much just the stereotypical mall, but lifestyle centers.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that the draw of the mall, yes, some of it was shopping. It was a convenient place. You could go to one place and get all kinds of stuff from different vendors and things. But I actually started off with like my just personal thoughts and feelings on malls. And, my memories as a young person were, you know, living in Florida most of the year, it's hot out. And it was a place you could go all year round. You're protected from the rain, you're protected from the heat, the blistering sun, and just people just wandering around. I mean, people would drop their teenagers off at the mall, or you go for family night. I remember my dad was really big. Like, if I asked for a toy, maybe like 20% of the time I'd actually get it. But if I asked for a book, I'd usually be allowed to get one. And we would go to Walden Books, which is gone. Gosh, that got bought by somebody ages ago. But we would go to Walden Books, which is this tiny little bookstore in the mall, and I'd get a book. So it was a big deal, um, to me. So, but other experiences we had were like the movie theaters. There was a movie theater at most malls when I was younger. That stopped being a thing later because we had a lot of shootings in Jacksonville at the movie theaters. Because Jacksonville was,
But the movie theater is still right around the corner from
yeah, that's true.
Regency. Um, and I get what you're saying about having a place to get out of the rain, to get out of the sun, but it's still happening, but they're evolving it beyond what is the traditional, because people don't want. just a place to shop anymore.
Right.
They want the experience, which is why, like for instance, as I mentioned, when I did traveling jewelry sales, there was a mall in Pennsylvania that had that had a casino attached to it. So people want that experience that they can go there, and if they want to shop, they can shop. If they want to do dinner, they can do dinner, and not just the food court or not just the TGI Fridays.
Yeah, I think we had. So when I was growing up, like you had those stores that kind of made it part of an experience, like Brookstone. Like I know Brookstone's probably gone. Sharper Image. Like
Yeah,
they had stuff that was interesting enough, and you got to interact with it enough that it made it more than just a shopping experience. And then to me, I remember food courts. Like that was the only place you could go to find a food court. Like everywhere else, it was like, well, we can go to McDonald's or we can go to Taco Bell or we can go to Shoney's or wherever. But like at a mall, you could go to one place and you could eat anything. Like you had places you could only get at the mall, like Chick-fil-A, Sbarro, um, Panda Express for a long time. I think was only in malls. Maybe I'm wrong, but in Jacksonville it was for sure. And there were just these places. There was a place at I don't know if it counts as a mall, but there's this place in Jacksonville called the Landing. It's like right on the river.
well, yeah, I still think that would be a little bit more considered. It's like a shopping center.
Yeah, but like I do feel like growing up like I did, the draw of the mall was more of an experience. It was
and and
not.
and I get what you're saying, and I'm not discounting that. But to my point is that we've evolved. We've evolved because that's what you had available back then. But now people are a little bit more refined in what they want to eat.
I mean, some
So
of
there's some
us.
people that are well, not you. I mean, you'll get the little that if you're hungry, you'll be like, "Go away, Penny. Let me get some of your cat food." Uh, you're not picky.
Hey, the economy's
So
rough these
right.
days.
So but people know that there are more options out there, and they want more options. They don't necessarily want the just the limited food court options. And the thing that I've seen, I mean, it's been a while since I've gone to a mall now, but there's so many of those food court places that there would be a lot of turnover.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, because they just can't survive on there. Whereas if you if you've got the mall set up to be not only shopping but entertainment and experience, more so than just going into Sharper Image or Brookstone, which first of all they aren't there anymore. But to have those options as the casinos, as um, let's say for instance like a Dave and Buster's
Yeah.
or something like that attached to it, where it's an all-encompassing. You can go there and spend the whole day, enjoy yourself, eat.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I definitely do think that when we were younger, the best you could hope for was a uh, an economy-based table service restaurant or the food court for food.
Right.
It was rare that you had anything resembling an experience. I mean, the closest thing to an experience was going into Bailey's Coffee and smelling the different coffees, which was
I
a
did
rare
like that.
it
I
was
did
a
like
rare
that. Yeah.
thing back in the day. Like you didn't go everywhere and find 800 flavors of coffee, so that was a cool thing.
They had over in the Cutler Ridge Mall down in Miami. They had a right in front of the K Jewelers that I worked at. There was one of these animatronic things. It was fairly large, and every 15 minutes, all around the limbo world, all the limbo boys and girls. You had these singing toucans over there, and it just, for the first 6 months, I wanted to get a shotgun and shoot it, and then it just got to the point where I just ignored it. But it was one of those things where it was fun, and you had a little bit of entertainment saying that.
Well, now they've got like little trains that run around malls and stuff. Like,
Well, yeah.
Well, they're not like trains, but they're some guy on a golf cart with a train overlay on it.
Oh,
Right.
and in some of the malls, you have those little kiosks where you can, for the kids, rent this little animal and you can steer it.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen those. Yeah. Like I agree. I think we're seeking more of that entertainment experience. I mean, I don't know that this qualifies as a mall, but a lot of places don't want to pay the overhead. And one of the things I think is a con of the mall, what we grew up with, that indoor monstrosity, is the environmental aspects of it, because everything's inside. You might have some plants, but it's limited. Um, and you're air conditioning a massive space. You're paving over a massive space, and it's not really an environmentally friendly environment. So if we expand to what they're building today, which seems to be more these outdoor town center type
Right.
malls, um, I think that the ones that do best do have that broader experience. They'll have a putt putt place, or one of our local areas has a couple things. They have putt putt. They have a movie theater. They have a axe throwing place that we went to recently, and it was delightful. And they have it's not a food court, but it's sort of a food court. There are some shops in there as well, but they've taken shipping crates, you know, the Grove, and they've turned it into it's
Yeah.
a bunch of like privately owned. It's not commercial. It's family owned stuff. So you just get a different experience than you did back in the day at the
I need
mall.
to stop by that place because I think that's one of the places that you introduced me to several years ago
It's
before I even thought about moving here. That's that big building where it has a lot of the places and it's all like food places inside, right?
So that might be a different one, but there's a couple of them that are similar.
Okay.
Yeah. So but yeah, like I do think that the mall as a concept still has a place. I think that, like you said, people want a place where you can go and have an experience and have a nice night out. It's not the, oh, I'm going to go to Lane Bryant or or Spencer's and get some crappy thing.
Yeah, you can go to Lane Bryant. I'll go to Spencer's.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of stores that were at the
Yeah.
mall, and eat some crappy food court food. Now we want one of the nicer malls here has, I mean, it's all upscale stores. Very few lower end stores. It has a Nordstrom and all that crap. But there's like a whole section that's nice higher end restaurants. Now with that comes a cost. You have high rent, so you have high costs. But it's a nice experience. It's a good place to go, and Jamie and I'll just go there sometimes. Just go for a walk when because it's air conditioning. um, so I think the mall has a place.
Are you talking about the outside mall near us, or are you talking about inside?
Well, there's International Plaza is what I was
Oh,
talking
okay.
about.
I
Yeah,
gotcha. I
so
gotcha.
that's like right near the airport in
I
Tampa.
haven't
If
been
you
there
guys
yet.
are ever here, it's very nice as far as malls go. One of the things that you may look at as a pro or a con is, with a mall, you have to follow the rules, or you're expected to follow the rules. And to me, the ones I've seen in recent years that do well are very strict about their rules. Like if you're getting loud and getting rowdy, they're going to kick you out.
I remember way back when. This is like the I want to say late '90s. There was a mall in like the North Miami area that they'd had so many problems with kids that you were not allowed unaccompanied if you were under the age of like 18, you know, um, during school hours or whatever during certain times because of the amount of gang activity and whatnot they'd had. It wasn't in the best area.
Well, I would say that the death of three of the malls that are or were in Jacksonville um, was due to lax security. I mean, you had the Regency Square Mall, which was one of the older malls in Florida, that now I think a school bought it or something, or a church or something.
There's a church that has a base in there, and I worked in that mall for
Yeah,
13, 14 years, and I'll tell you the security sucked.
I mean,
in that
we had
mall.
shootings there on a regular basis. I mean, it was multiple times a year. The Orange Park Mall, which is still open, was another place that people just stopped going because there was always a fight or a shooting or something going on that was just not a good experience for your family.
I was in
And
the mall. I was in the Regency when there was a shooting.
yeah, it's. I mean, I can't imagine, especially now when you have so many almost weekly mass shootings. I can't even imagine what that would be like. And I think that's probably what has killed them all more than anything else. At least, like maybe the final death knell was like you don't want to give people a place where they can just linger and cause problems. You like if you have an outdoor mall in Florida, people are just going to sit outside. And I mean, they will, but to limited. I mean, if you go to the town center, people aren't just lingering outside because it's too hot.
Well, unless it's right by like Starbucks or whatever.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's a little different.
There's a few places that have like coverings.
But they're pretty fierce about patrolling and being secure
Right.
in a way that some of these malls that we're talking about had stopped. And if you're not from Jacksonville, I don't know how to explain it. It's just these
Oh,
malls.
I'm sure there's plenty of places around
Yeah, I'm sure
that have.
everybody's got one.
Yeah.
So to me, I personally like the idea of this vertical mall, something I'd never really heard of, where we're not building a giant parking lot. I do understand that like you don't want to pave paradise and put up a parking lot. You leave some green spaces, let people walk to the mall, let people ride a bus to the mall. Like I think one of the problems we have in America is we want to pave everything over, and I don't. I'm not a fan of that. While I do like the town center concept a little better because it does encourage more green spaces, depends on where you are whether they go with more green space or just pave it over and let you walk in the store from outside.
Well, but part of the thing about you were mentioning about having people walk there or people take the bus there, whatnot. You've got to have a good transportation system,
Well, that's what
or
I'm
it's got to
saying.
be centrally located. Which, frank, frankly, Florida sucks
Yeah.
with its transportation.
We have an
Uh,
urban planning problem in Florida.
yeah,
Well, probably
so
in many places.
you can't really if you're going to do a vertical mall, you're gonna have to build several floors of parking built in.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, it's probably another discussion for another day is urban planning in America and how we could do it better. But yeah, like I said, I think that the idea of having a place that draws people in for fun and entertainment and can help retailers as well is positive. I just think that it's rarely done well. Um, and because of that, I think I'm kind of a no for the most part. Malls don't need to exist. But I can point out at least two malls that I've been that I say like it was pleasant enough that I think I'd go back.
So this is the funny thing is that once I delved into it, I changed my mind. I said malls need to exist, but not in the fashion that we were used to.
Yeah,
They've got to be more all encompassing. So maybe you have a supermarket built in.
yeah. So one of the malls. So I made a list of the coolest mall I've ever been
Okay.
to, or a couple of them. One I really actually liked that concept. This is probably the low end of these three. Um, I really liked the concept that the Jacksonville Landing was going for. It didn't work in execution because people just stopped going. But if you ever went to the Jacksonville Landing, is it still there? I don't.
No, they tore it down.
Yeah,
But it the closest thing that I can say to it, it was a smaller version of Bayside in Miami, which I
I've
mean,
never been.
you've never been to Bayside, but you've gone on cruises out of Miami before.
Yeah, I probably just never
You were
noticed.
right around the corner.
Yeah.
But Bayside was basically if you took the landing and split it in two
So yeah,
and expanded it even more.
okay.
That's Bayside.
Yeah, so the landing was this it's kind of shaped like a half moon and facing the river. So you had this actually pretty good spot to overlook events that went on. They had a concert space in the middle. So there were always, I feel like every Friday and Saturday night for a long time, they would have somebody there. And sometimes they'd have bigger events. And they had restaurants. I mean, sometimes it was higher end, and they came and went. Hooters was there for ages. There was a Johnny Rockets at one point. They had a food court, but they had mall. I mean, it's shops, and it was small, but it was nice. And one of the places that's similar, and probably built by the same developer, was in Baltimore. There was a place, and I believe it's called Harbor Place, that was right there. It's near the aquarium. Last time I went, which was years ago, it was still there. I don't know if it's still there, but it was kind of a neat place, and I think the location helps with those. Um, the second one on my list was in Dallas. There's a place called the Galleria that is a huge mall. Lots of higher end stores if you want that, but they have some some of your traditional mall stores like Spencer's and things. Last time I went, some higher end restaurants, like you
Yeah.
said, you had some things to draw you there that weren't just what we grew up with in the mall.
I think you would enjoy the Falls Shopping Center in Miami.
Okay.
It's the closest shopping center near where I grew up, and it's pretty unique. And the funny thing, it was built in the '80s, but it's been revamped a little bit. But it's got a theater inside. It's also got right outside in the parking lot area. There's a there's a oh goodness, fresh market,
Mhm.
a lot of higher end stores, a lot of good restaurants, but it's an outside shopping center that has covered walkways all interacting with it.
So I definitely need to go see this because my number one mall, and it is a mall that is in a place you would be like, I'm not going there to go to a mall, but it is such a cool mall that I would say it's worth visiting. Um, and there's actually another similar place near it in Honolulu. A couple years ago, my wife, for work, one of her jobs, uh, flew her out to Honolulu for. She was working. I tagged along to use the free hotel, and the hotel we were staying at was right next to this mall. There's a little walkway, and I went over, and it's like you said, it's outdoor, but the walkways are covered. There So you would just have these atrium areas where you can see the sky. Luckily, the climate there doesn't go to extremes most of the time, so it's very nice. Um, this one had a lot of high end stores, but it also had a little central space where they had shows. They would do a luau type show, things that were cultural events. And at one end, there was a store called Foodland, which is, oh my God, Foodland in Hawaii is amazing. It is one of my favorite places in the world. They have the best poke. It's awesome. So, but anyway, the Ala Moana in Honolulu is worth a trip if you're ever in Honolulu. It's right there off of the like the Waikiki area, so it's worth going. So
Let's go tomorrow.
let's go. Let's hop on a plane. But no, like I said, I agree with you. They need to exist, but they can't languish. They can't be allowed to languish because when they start to die and wither, they become eyesores and um, crime hotspots. Really, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And you're better off to just tear it down and build a park.
yeah. I think part of it is adequate security, and so if you can limit the amount of space and have a good amount of people looking over it, that's going to help prevent that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's coming to mind for me is these malls that I just described in a lot of ways are very much like the malls we grew up with, but they evolved. They made it a point to evolve and become something different. When I think about the malls that have died or are dying, um, or just are just sad places now that I've been to, they clearly haven't evolved. they've just stayed as they are, and we're seeing retail in general having to evolve, with the internet and things like that.
Well, they have to have a lot more of experiences, because what's happening is you're really having people go into the stores and then look on their phones and going, scanning it, okay, I can get it for this price on Amazon. Let me just go ahead and buy it from there.
But it raises an interesting question of, like, now I will say the advantage of a mall is you can get it that day. Even with Amazon, it still takes, often, not always, 1 to 2 days to get something. Not always. We're very close to an Amazon warehouse, so sometimes I can get stuff same day. But it calls into question. So when you think about Tesla, which is, they've in one of our local malls, there's a Tesla showroom, and they have, 3 cars in there. And however you feel about Tesla, it's just a showroom. It's to drive you to purchase something. So I part of me wonders is, especially for your higher end brands, like, is there merit to having the storefront as showroom so that people can actually see and feel that fabric? Because there are some things, when I looked at it initially, I went, but then I felt the fabric and I went, oh, I need that. Like, that is wonderful. It's very comfortable. It's very light and airy. I might need that. So I think there's room for malls and retail to evolve, and the ones that choose to will likely see survive more, and the ones that don't will die, like many malls.
Well, and what my point is it's more so like technical stuff that you're gonna go ahead and price shop. Honestly, when it comes down to a lot of clothing, I'm more likely to go into a store and buy it. Now, honestly, if I go into the store and it's priced fairly high and I can look online and see that I can get the same thing at a significant discount, I'm
Absolutely.
going to shop it online.
Well, and as the economy changes, I mean, right now, whether you agree or not, the reality is we are in a pretty rough economy, and everybody's going to be looking for those deals. And I suspect that we're going to see a lot more retail closures and a lot more mall closures at the coming years.
Oh, it's definitely happening.
So, um, that's all I got. I mean, like I said, I think we're both in agreement that there's a place for that kind of space, but it can't be what it was in the 80s and 90s.
Absolutely not.
All right. Um, all right. Nothing else on the topic, Brad. I think this is your turn.
Yes, it's my turn.
What's next episode's topic?
So, the next episode, we're each going to we're going to pick 5 cities.
Okay.
5 cities. Um, and
Ocala,
shut up.
McClenny.
Let's limit it. Let's limit it to the United States.
Okay, fair.
But pick 5 cities and pick 2 or 3 things in each city that you must do
Okay.
when you're in the city, regardless of price.
All right.
So you could budget or not budget, whatever. But these are things that you really want to do in those cities.
Okay. I think I can come up with a couple things
I
for that.
think you can, because you are a researcher.
If not, I can Google it.
Right.
So, I mean, worst case, I talk about McClenny, Florida, the booming metropolis that is McClenny.
Let's not.
All right. Brad, any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Only please subscribe. That helps us out.
We're not to
Please.
that part yet. We're not to that part yet.
I'm at that part.
Oh my god.
But please, tell other people about the podcast. Uh, Tell us what you think, what you like, what you don't like. Um, and speaking of which, too, this particular wine. You know what? I've got 2 things that I think this would go magnificently with.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, not that I would be eating them because I'm vegan, but a
Maybe. Yeah, I can see
steak,
that.
and a very rich chocolate cake.
I think I can see the cake more than the steak. I feel like I like something a little more intense when it comes to steak. I this is just a little light for me when it comes to
Okay.
steak. I could see it with something, um, maybe like a pork, or something like that, like something a little lighter. I don't know.
I think this would overpower the pork,
It may,
though.
it may.
I mean,
Like I
I'm
said,
not saying fillet.
yeah, possibly. I could see depending on who you are, either way. It's not bad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't turn it down if I was eating a steak.
Right.
I like a little more of a bold experience, and this one is more gentle on the palate to me.
To be clear, though, I mean, to me, if we're talking gentle, I'm thinking more like Pinot Noir.
Fair, fair.
So
That's true.
this is a
This
lot.
is more rich than a Pinot Noir.
Oh, 100%. That's why I'm saying. But it may be like a braised meat,
Yeah,
something like that.
I could see I could see the flavor tones of this going really well with like maybe a lamb or something like that. I don't know why maybe it's the rosemary that makes it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I actually want to talk a little bit. Like this is just my final thought that's unrelated to anything we've talked about.
Great.
I want to talk about AI just because like our company has been talking a lot about AI. I've been using AI a lot more than I ever imagined myself doing, and I just wanted to point out just because it just started yesterday on April 8th. Um, Microsoft, I found out about this today. So Microsoft is having something called an AI Skills Fest,
Oh, I thought that
where
was Al.
yes, Al Skills. Microsoft is having something called an AI Skills Fest. It's an online event for 50 days. They're marketing as unlock the future with 50 days of AI discovery and learning. They have things for students, the public sector, business professionals, tech professionals. I've only touched the surface of it, but it seems like a really cool thing. And like it or not, I think AI is really going to be a big piece of our world. I don't think it's going to replace everybody's jobs and things like that. It'll replace some. I don't. I've worked with it enough to say I just don't buy that it's going to replace most people's jobs. It's good, but not that good. But who knows? Who knows what the future is? But I think this is something worth looking at. So Google Microsoft AI Skills Fest. Check it out. It appears to be free. You can register online and check it out. There's a lot of interesting content worth looking into. So that's all I got. Check out AI. If you haven't had a chance to play with it, just ask it some questions. It can do some really neat things, and a lot of the easy tasks that you might need to do in your life or questions you might need answers to, it can answer with pretty good accuracy. Just don't use it to cheat or do illegal things.
Nice.
So,
Nice. I've got one more thing I forgot about.
all right,
So do you have Hulu?
I do.
Okay. So a few years back, the very one of my sister-in-law, Jennifer, one of her best friends, Nikki, had a podcast, and it was called Dying for Sex, and it was really about her best friend Molly, who was dying of cancer, and she decided that, you know what, she was going to experience life for however long that she had left. She ended up getting a divorce from her husband, and she would have sex anywhere and everywhere that she wanted to. So, but ultimately it was about experiencing life, and the the podcast was amazing. I mean, and if you haven't listened to it, it's on Wondery. It's called Dying for Sex. Listen to it. It's amazing. So, just came out on Hulu a few days ago. The the show Dying for Sex, starring Michelle Williams. Michelle Williams is playing the part of Molly,
Oh wow.
and Jenny Slate is playing the part of Nikki.
By
Now,
the way, I have no idea who these
okay,
people are, but
so
oh wow.
Jenny Jenny Slate. Did you ever watch Parks and Rec?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the brother and sister who were truly awful people?
Yes.
Okay. Jenny Slate is the sister.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. But she's a hilarious actress, comedian. Um, so she's playing the part of Nikki, and it's just a show that is just it's amazing.
It's called
And it's
Dying for Sex.
Dying for Sex.
Okay. So the
So
podcast and the show have the same name.
correct.
Okay.
Correct. So
Well, good.
check it out.
Well, speaking of Hulu and other things, we're not on Hulu. Just kidding. But as Brad was saying earlier, if you are enjoying the show, or even if you think you might enjoy it at some point, if we figure out what the hell we're doing, like us, share us, subscribe to us, join us. What all the things that you do on the internet. We are on Apple and Spotify podcasts as Wine Whiskey and Words. We are on YouTube as Wine Whiskey and Words. We have an email address, winewhiskeyandword@gmail.com, because Wine Whiskey and Words was taken by some evil corporation or somebody. I don't know who they are. And we have a website, winewhiskeyandwords.com, which I just remembered needs to be updated. So we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to sharing the next one with you.
God help us all. Yeah. Like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future podcasts, we'll accept any submission, and then we'll either do it or we'll talk about you afterwards.
Or if you'd like to become a disciple, we're accepting applications. I don't know. I just made. I'm not funny.
Jamie will not allow you to have any disciples.
Okay.
She's like, I am not going to feed them.
Yeah. I know. We got this kid. He's got fish and bread across the street. So.
Yeah. So
anyway.
All right. Well, God help us all. We'll
Here
see
we
you
go.
soon.
All right. Cheers.